What up, Naughty Steppers? Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Naughty Step channel, and it is time to talk about Noisia. Tuesday was a sad day for lovers of bass music as the legendary trio Noisia announced they would be parting ways after 20 years together, citing creative differences between them, which seems a little bit basic as a summation of where they're at, but which works in the sense that there was nothing more that they could give collectively to the project. In their words, a game they've completed. They did go on to finish their statement, however, by saying that this is by no means the last time they'll be working together. Post-2020, having played their last show on the eve before 2021, with Noisia Radio still running up to that point as well, they predict they'll still create together in some way, with Vision and Division recordings going on beyond the Noisia concept as well. But Noisia itself is a done thing, a shame for those who grew up on their music, which helped shape a lot of other music they love today, myself included. And it really is the end of an era, but as they've said, better that they know it's done, keeping it intact, as opposed to potentially ruining it by carrying it on. But you can tell just how much this news has shaken the electronic music world by the amount of other musicians tweeting about how incredible they are. Following the likes of the Prodigy, the Chemical Brothers, Daft Punk, etc., these guys are just as influential within their respective field. It isn't something I can say I saw coming or thought I ever would see, but over the last year or so you can feel the project was slowing down a bit. Trying out more experimental types of music, trying also to rein it back in with the D&B, it seemed like a tussle between different approaches and less like a unified thing. Clinging onto it somewhat, and so it actually makes me happy that they've gone ahead to end it, and now it's time to pay tribute. I asked you guys on here and on Twitter how you wanted me to cover this news, and you had some pretty good responses. One of which was a try not to cry challenge, and I mean, I didn't when I heard of the news, but listening to all of their old stuff again, I was close. The most common thing that came up though was giving a brief overview of their career and also my favourite tracks. So that's what I'm going to do, give a brief history of Noisia and then run through my 10 favourite songs of theirs, plus a couple of extras. Before giving some final thoughts on the trio, what they mean to me personally, how I've interpreted their music, the legacy they're leaving. A video to provide memories and nostalgia for those who grew up on and fell in love with Noisia in the same way I did, but also to provide information for the younger demographic who won't be too familiar with them but want to know more. And I hope you enjoy that it is a testament to these stalwarts of bass music, but here we go, starting with this brief history of Noisia. Noisia is comprised of three Dutchmen, Nick, Thijs and Martijn, who in the late 90s were all in high school in Groningen, Holland. They were graffiti artists in different crews, Nick and Thijs in one, Martijn in another, and they didn't really like each other. But at the same time they were all making music, Nick and Thijs together again, Martijn on his own again, and they realised there was a bit of similarity there, so they started working together. Following that was a few years of solidly working, trying to establish a brand and style of music, settling on a name in the process of that. Noisia, which is a complete inversion of the word vision, which they saw on an upside down VHS tape, releasing their first single in 2003, and in the next few years following that, putting out tracks for some huge labels in the D&B scene. From Moving Shadow to Renegade Hardware, TB Subtitles imprint, Shogun Audio and more. At this point, also releasing under different names like Hustle Athletics, Frizz and Drifter to account for the genres they were exploring outside of D&B. Before hurriedly ditching those aliases in one fell swoop, realising they didn't want to confuse fans and followers of their music, embracing flexibility instead. 2007 signifies for me their first truly impactful branch out of D&B with the fantastically full of life electro house number, Yellow Brick. Earlier that year, the trio completing their first huge job outside of Noisia, producing the whole of Tasha Baxter's album, Colour of Me. This was the beginning of them truly breaking out into the bass mainstream, also producing Hadouken's second album for the masses, and providing remixes for the likes of the Prodigy, Deadmau5 and Skrillex, stretching into 2009 now. In that year, we also get a feature that propelled them even further into the bass limelight, the monstrous Contact, alongside Foreign Beggars. With the trio having released a boatload of EPs and singles at this point, but 2010 brings the moment we've all been waiting for, a debut album. Split the Atom remains one of the most iconic LPs in bass music, full stop, providing hits like the title track, Machine Gun, Red Heat, Diplodocus, as well as Tommy's Theme and Could This Be, in a special 2012 edition stacked with remixes from the likes of 16-Bit, Black Sun Empire, Excision and Datsik, Kill the Noise. In 2013, they produced an entire 1 hour 20 album for a new Devil May Cry game, at the same time working on an album as supergroup I Am Legion with Foreign Beggars. Releasing that debut self-titled LP in 2013, containing hits like Make Those Move and Choosing For You, not to mention my personal favourite, Jellyfish. It's in 2014 that for me their production goes up another level altogether with the release of their Purpose EP, brutal, dark, unforgiving D&B music. They then begin Noisia Radio in 2015 as a way of showcasing up-and-coming talent, giving insight on what they're enjoying, and just keeping fans in the loop generally. 2016 bringing about another truly long-awaited moment in the release of their sophomore album Outer Edges, a stunning collection of songs. An LP which I feel will stand the test of time as perhaps the most rounded and complete that bass music has and ever will see. Since then, they've released a remix album of Outer Edges, collabs with a load of familiar D&B names on standalone singles, remixed for Pendulum, bringing us to this moment in September 2019 where, as we all know, the group confirmed they would be parting ways at the end of 2020. Now, I hope that was comprehensive enough as a brief history of Noisia, and that you now have a better understanding of the scope of their work, but now for the fun part, my top 10 in order of release. Yellow Brick, which I mentioned earlier, exuberant and colourful but dark and impending. Big nostalgia attached to this one for me, a real journey, love this song so much. Contact with Foreign Beggars, another which I mentioned earlier, pre-I Am Legion, extremely weighty, explosive beat, vocals dancing over it perfectly, great chemistry, top tune. Machine Gun, perhaps the most freakish, off-the-wall, creative and animated that we've ever heard from them in one song. I love how it develops, incredible song. Split the Atom, one of the best introductions I've ever heard, lively venture into house music, so well put together, adventurous, fantastic stuff. Their remix of Earthquake by Labyrinth, my favourite remix of theirs. I think this one completely stops time. The drops are also like earthquakes, and also really interesting ideas in those drop sections. Mad production quality, very well assembled. Could this be the more pensive and reflective side of Noisia's style, still full of energy and life, but with a solemnness to it that's still so powerful, really leaves a mark? Dust Up with the upbeats, envelops you, spits you back out in these visceral drops, unrelenting, effortless magnetic pull with a lovely D&B flow and rhythm to it. Jellyfish as I Am Legion with Foreign Beggars, musically it's potentially my favourite song of theirs, so effective without trying to do too much, it's cute and pointed, crazy attention to detail, yeah, it just works so well. Collider, momentous, epic, uncontainable. I've always loved this song, but I've only over time realised just how exceptional it is on all fronts. It really does tick every box. And finally, The Entangled. I think I would have to call this my favourite Noisia tune. So beautifully put together, graceful, intricate, heartfelt, exceptionally constructed, and just hits in all the right spots. And now I'm going to give you a couple of extras that were just outside my top 10 for Noisia. So we've got The Liquid with Evil Intent, 7 Stitches, Red Heat, Make Those Move, their remix of Smack My Bitch Up by The Prodigy, their remix also of Arrakis by Black Sun Empire, Omnivore with the upbeats, Cleansing with Former, the Purpose EP, all of it, no tracks here that I love from start to finish, but that EP really is so on point in its production from beginning to end, brilliant stuff. And a couple of extras also from the Outer Edges album that I love, Anomaly, Tentacles and Get Deaded. And following on from there, time for some final thoughts on this legendary trio, and honestly, where to begin with the impact they've had over this 20-year period. On a musical level, Skrillex, who Noisia mentored, said they were pure art, the sound design taking you into its own world. Which is hard to disagree with. Their music always feels so alive, real and atmospheric that it seems to embody a living thing, someone literally sitting or standing right next to you. The most technically insane that Skrillex ever saw, which really is saying something, music with an instantly classic feel, regardless of how old it may be. Known mostly as a D&B collective, but they branched out into so much more, from dubstep to house, breakbeat, grime, glitch, you name it. Bringing the neuro approach further into the bass consciousness along the way, heavily inspiring other huge bass groups like Cohen Sound. And people talk about the sound design gods of today, but none of them are on that level without Noisia. They made that level of sound design realisable for everyone else. Beyond their own music, owning 3 labels at once in Vision, Division and Invisible, producing albums for several other musicians front to back, maintaining Noisia Radio for years, producing for a wide array of different video games, taking their self-controlled audio-visual tour around the world, changing the bass scene so much in the process, achieving undoubted legend status in the sphere of electronic music. UKF noting in their recent interview with them that most EDM groups just fizzle out, but Noisia are so big they had to let everyone know. They have promised to go out with a bang, and what this means beyond live shows and the continuation of Noisia Radio until the end of next year, I'm not so sure. But ultimately, it is the end of an era, undeniably sad, but hopefully the start of new and exciting things for them going forward. Noisia may be gone very soon, but they've left more than enough of a legacy to ensure that they will live on in the heart of bass music forever. And yeah, I'm going to leave it on that note, not going to say too much more, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you could like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But yeah, I shall see all of you in the next one. Long live Noisia. Peace out.